Alrighty, y'all. Hot hatches are definitely here in the U.S., but I don't think they're anywhere near the level of popularity that they have in Europe, at least from what I've heard. I've always seen that throughout different clips of, car shows and just kind of being in the know in the automotive community. Typically there's a lot of awesome hot hatches from like Japan and different European companies as well. It's just a thing. And here in the U.S., they have their place. But, yeah, we've always been into, it seems like, bigger cars, sports cars, muscle cars. And hot hatches have never been, front and center, at least here in the U.S. Regardless, we're looking at hot hatches from the 80s, and these should all be, I believe, European, I'm told. So this comes to us from AutoStance. It'll be linked down below so you can check out this whole video and, of course, browse their channel. Let's check these out. I'm really excited because, as you know, the more I discover, the more I like. And I am someone that liked hot hatches. You could argue I had one. I had an 89 Honda Civic Si. Of course, being the Si model, that's what you want with Honda, right? And, 89 being the EF hatch, as they're usually called. Although, if you want to get technical, I think it was the ED7, the model we had in North America. I could be wrong on that, but either way, I think if you're a car guy, what I'm referring to. Yes, it was a manual, and yes, it was fun. It handled so good. So I get the hot hatch appeal. They're really fun. So let's take a look at these old hot hatches from Europe. Let's do it. I don't believe there's any narration in this video. Okay, so we're starting out with the what is this, Peugeot? Or Peugeot? Let me get the full name, 205 GTI, okay. Yeah, I don't think we had this in the U.S. If we did, I've never seen them, ever. 1.6-liter GTI was launched in 84. It comes with the XU5J engine, which produced 104 horsepower, or 77 kilowatts. And then, of course, power increased later on. That's cool. So 115 horsepower for 87. Damn, that thing's actually awesome. It reminds me of my Honda a little bit. I mean, they don't look alike. I'm not saying they're twins. But kind of some details. Of course, a 3-door, right? The 2 doors and the rear tailgate. Mine was red, but this reminds me of it, I guess, like the way it's styled a little bit, even though they do look different. Mine had that, where it was red, and then it had this black kind of molding with a red line in the middle. Just like that on Honda. That's pretty funny. This is a cool car. I like this. I actually really like this. Really simple inside. Actually very similar inside as well. Maybe you could argue this was like the European answer to like a Honda Civic Si, a 205 GTI. I mean, this looks awesome, dude. I really actually like it a lot. Yeah, I dig this for sure. So this was kind of like an older era. They haven't really replicated this in modern cars, right? This thing is awesome. I imagine it's got an amazing driving feel, and like the steering and everything, the transmission, I bet it feels so direct. And remember, these cars are light. So unlike, right, American cars, you don't need a huge, 5-liter engine. And you don't need 600 horsepower. No. These things with 115 horsepower would, make you go, because they're just, if you got good gearing and these things are light, they're going to go fast, actually. And they're going to handle amazing. Yeah, I totally would love to drive one of those. That's awesome. What is this thing? Vauxhall Astra GTE. Okay, now I do tend to like weird and quirky cars. This is a weird looking car, which is kind of why I think I like it. The first one looked better. This does not look as good, but I kind of like it. The front's not bad. The rear's a little weird. I mean, I like the exhaust and the spoiler. Like, they're there, but they're not too over the top. It's a little weird. Like, the taillights almost seem too small for the design. So it's got kind of all this real estate here that makes it look a little bizarre. But I do like it. It's got quite a bit more power. Love the seats. Love that all these are pretty much going to be manuals, I imagine. So this was outshined by the Escort in sales, which is probably not a surprise because I do know of that. That's pretty legendary nameplate. Yeah, I don't know anything about this, and I am like 99% sure they did not sell this in the US. But that's pretty cool. Here's, of course, the almighty Escort. Damn, these are so cool. Of course, from rally videos, I know that these are still very relevant even today. And these are just legends. I mean, look at them. They look good. I bet these are a joy and a half to drive. And you can do so much with these. It's just a great platform, I think. I mean, yeah, look at the look. This is the best looking one so far. Look at this thing. That is a badass car, dude. Wow. Yeah, I totally dig this. Oh my god, that is such a good looking car. Fuel injection arrived in 82. Oh yeah, so obviously older ones are carbureted. Damn, I feel like it's a car that just looks good in any color too. That is just like a legendary car for a reason. Like, you can see why. Oh, this thing is awesome. What the hell is this? A Renault 5 Turbo? Dude, if this doesn't scream like weird 80s hatch, I don't know what does. This This is freaking crazy. Look at these wheel arches. Look at how fat this is back here. It comes way out and it's got vents. What? I think I've seen this car, not in real life, but I've seen it somewhere, right? Maybe in movies or video games or something, but I just never knew what it was. This thing is wild. It's kind of like ridiculous in the best way. The 5 Turbo featured a mid-mounted, basically round up 1.4 liter turbocharged engine. This is a hatchback with a rear engine? Or mid-engine, I'm sorry. Mid-engine, but that's crazy. I've never even heard of such a car like that. That is awesome, dude. I wonder what this feels like to drive, because hatchbacks generally, sporty hatchbacks are like, I think they're pretty pleasant to drive and they're pretty predictable. Now, of course, they're usually front wheel drive, and of course the engine and all that, most of the weight's up front, but they're somehow like pretty balanced, and then you know what it'll do on the limit. You know, it might barely just plow just a little bit because everything's up front, but it's usually easy to correct, and you can get them to, I guess, like to an extent, get them a little tail happy. Not like you would a rear wheel drive car, but you can get it to swing around. This is a hatchback. It's a short wheelbase, but it's a mid-engine. So it's got to be rear wheel drive, right? This is a weird car. I wonder, what this would be like to drive. It's got to be kind of bizarre. It might be really good, or it might be like a heavy learning curve. I'm not really sure what to think of that. It's got a really long shifter, so that would be bizarre as well. Damn. Y'all got to tell me if you've driven one of those. I would be curious to see what that's like. Old VW Golfs, GTIs, of course. Now, this is a legendary nameplate even in the US. These are very famous. Of course, I know GTIs. I see them all the time. Now, I don't see old ones like this all the time. These are extremely rare and a little thin in the tooth nowadays here. But they're around. But I haven't seen one in quite a while. These 80s ones are awesome, though. I mean, I think they're iconic. I think they're really good looking. I mean, this is a good looking car. It's not like the sportiest one, but it's just got it's got a safe look. Like, it doesn't look bad. It still looks good. And, you know, you could do a lot with this. I really like it. I would love to drive one of these sometime too. I've never actually driven any GTIs, sadly. I've always wanted to. This is cool. Like, this one right here is actually hella nice. I would love to drive that one. I imagine these are a famous nameplate for a reason. I'm sure they're pleasant to drive. I have to say, out of all the cars on this list so far, because these are sporty, like, hot hatches, this is the most, maybe you could say mature, or maybe the most understated, which there usually is some cars like that, depending on in any era, where they're actually a sporty model or top trim, but they don't really look like it. They're not, you know, totally dressed up and sported out, right? Like, this thing still looks, to most people, probably like a normal car. But that's not a bad thing. It still looks good. Ford Fiesta XR2. Cool. I know nothing about that. Looks like this would be a lot of fun to toss around. This thing is ultra light, because I think this is probably smaller maybe than everything on the list. Because Fiestas, I think, are really small, as far as I know. I don't think we had this in the US either. We might have had old Fiestas, I can't remember, but I don't think we had a sporty one. So it had a similar engine to the Escort? That's freaking awesome. I imagine this thing might have been actually really quick. But it might have, okay, so later on it had less power for emissions stuff, okay. God, it's pretty cool looking, actually. Looks like it'd be really nimble. What is this thing? A Volvo. I did not expect to see that on a list. A Volvo 360 GLT. God, I have never heard of that in my whole life. I guess I always think of like the bigger Volvo sedans and like the wagons, like the bricks or whatever is a nickname, right? Which I would love to get my hands on one of those. This is actually pretty cool. I never thought of them for classic hot hatches. Had a good amount of power. It was a 2 liter, so it was a little bigger engine. Oh, you know what? That's pretty legit. I like their spin on hot hatch. It still looks like a Volvo somehow, but it does look like a hot hatch. I didn't even know about this. How popular are these? I imagine, I mean, I have no idea. I imagine maybe these were less popular or a little more rare, because I feel like the typical Volvo buyer, even in Europe, would probably buy the bigger Volvos. I don't know. You guys will have to tell me about that one. That's pretty neat. I have to say my favorite from this list, would be between the Renault. That thing is just awesome. And I don't know how common those were. Or this 205 GTI. That is it Peugeot or Peugeot? I'm probably saying it wrong. I feel like people have said I've said that wrong, which I apologize. It's not a brand we're really familiar with here in the U.S., unfortunately. Yeah, I'd have to go with this as my overall winner. I think this thing looks awesome. I bet nowadays these are worth a little bit of money, too. The irony is, you know, I think back then a lot of these were somewhat affordable, like not super expensive. But I feel like these kinds of things have held their value surprisingly well. So, yeah, I imagine like this probably goes for a lot. I think old Escorts, certain ones probably go for a lot. Maybe these. I feel like this looks like it would go for a lot of money. You guys have to let me know what some of your favorites are and which of these you think are the most valuable nowadays. And how common are these in Europe? Because a lot of these, almost actually all of them, I never see here in the U.S. at all. Any hatchbacks I see would be, of course, modern, you know, newer era ones. And the only sport ones I can think of, which I know there's more, but the only ones I think of a lot are like, we do have the Fiesta ST, we have the Focus ST, and then of course the Focus RS. I actually don't even know any of the modern hot hatches in the U.S. See, so it's still never been a gigantic market here. Well, this will be a good video for comments. You got to let me know some of your experience with these cars. And again, I just think it's so interesting to see how different car markets are across the world. These hot hatches are actually, I'm pleasantly surprised. They're really awesome. And I know these would be just so fun to drive. And I think almost all these we did not get here in the U.S. So, again, we miss out on a lot. But, hey, I guess that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, y'all. I'll catch you later.